I played your game live on Twitch, and my goal was to destroy them. Don't worry, I've been kind. The games were super cool. Disclaimer before we jump into the first game, I'm just a random game dev giving my personal opinion. My feedback can be valuable as an outside perspective, but don't take it for more than what it is, an opinion. Let's jump into the first game. Super Bowl Night is a 2D rage platformer where you hold your jump button to charge and then jump. You have a special tool to help you reach the end of the game, but I won't say what it is to not spoil everything. Am I able to go there? Alright, easy. So the longer you hold the jump, the stronger the jump. A talking raven, what's next? A talking horse? I like the fact that the character is talking, like it adds a bit of fun to the game. I believe I can fly, so I need to jump, right? I need to believe. Okay, honestly, that's pretty cool. Okay, we have some kind of cutscene. Ooh, showing you the entrance. That's a nice fork. I can use the fork for cooking sausage. Or to climb walls. Nice little twist. I don't need to hold. That's a good thing. So many traces of forks on these walls. The good part, I enjoyed the presentation of the game and the art style. I think it fits well with the genre and it's tied perfectly with the music and sound effects. The snarky dialogues and humor that you have throughout the ascent and your falls, of course, was super pleasing. I think it made the game easier to play, even if it was supposed to be a rage game. Of course, this reminds me of the voice in Getting Over It, and I think it's done well with its own tone and style. It could grow old quite fast if you fail a lot, but that's another problem. The gameplay itself is well done. The controls are simple, feel tight and fair, which I think is crucial for a game like that. You need to feel like you were the one at fault for failing. The fork adds a bit more complexity to the game, which can be interesting and lead to more complex level design. As I said, I was afraid the game would feel too close to Jump King, but in reality, the shared mechanic is just the jump. There's no bounce in this game, and you use the fork on the walls. I think it's totally fine to be inspired, and the game has its own character, story, and everything, so it doesn't feel like a clone. Let me know what you think in the comments. Now for the bad part. I had some performance issues in some places when I was playing, but you have to consider I was doing it live and my PC was struggling a bit to handle everything at once. I replayed outside of the stream and the performance were fine, even though I was playing a web version, which is not optimal. I originally put the closeness to Jump King as a bad thing, but I just said a minute ago it was fine. I think the game works well as it is right now. People are always thirsty for a rage game, you just have to see how a difficult game about climbing by Pontypants was received. The difficulty with this kind of game is having good level design. It's really what is going to make it interesting or not. It's a bit difficult for me to judge that part because I didn't see the full game. From what I've seen, it seems good. In terms of potential commercial success, there might be too many rage games like that, and the unique selling point in this one might be too small. Rage games can get huge if they reach the right people. Embarking streamers can be extremely beneficial, but you have to convince them, usually by saying the game is brutally hard or something. I'm not sure it's sold as such for now. The game also has a Steam page, so you can wishlist if you're interested. Speaking of the page itself, I think it's well constructed. It has a nice trailer and screenshots showing the diversity of environments you'll find in the game. The description is nice and the GIFs are good. I really think you should include GIFs to showcase particular things of your game. You should resize them to make them smaller and less squarish. They take a lot of space on the screen and I think they should be helping the player focus on the important bit. You can easily resize them using online tools. Also, the tagging of the game might be a bit wrong. If you look at similar items Steam recommends, you don't find other rage games in here, which seems weird. There are many games in this genre and I think you should rework the tagging to get better discoverability. I think the most lacking is the Steam capsule. The text is small and I find it hard to read. I know it's the logo, but I think it could be made more punchy. You can play with the words and their size, maybe make the word bull more stylized. The composition itself is cool with the main character. I think it could be more dynamic. I would prefer to see the bull in the air doing a big jump with maybe the castle in the background. I think it would give potential players a better idea of what to expect. Thank you so much for sending your game and good luck with the release. Vylan is a puzzle game where your movement is limited to a grid and you have to solve puzzles to reach the end of the level. I'm nitpicking a bit, but the D, I was a bit confused initially. So tap D to move right. Okay, I move right. Tap A to move left. you have each step in the tutorial. When I'm here, you should put tap W to move up. Once I'm up, you should put tap D to move right. If you're guiding the player, then guide the player. Tap arrow to move diagonally. So this is a bit weird because I'm playing with WSD, but now I need to use the arrow keys. So I'm like, okay, but why not? So I use the arrow and I move diagonally. Okay, can I go diagonally right now? I can. Can I go diagonally again? I can't. I'm already confused. Can I go up? No. What? First of all, the presentation is simple but effective. I really like the black and white. It lets you focus on the puzzles. The colored hazards we find in later levels are a nice touch. I also have some negatives about the visuals, but we'll come back to that. I'm not sure at the moment. Okay. Oh, so you saw that? This was a level that was apparently useless, but in fact, it was useful because it's teaching you a new mechanic that when you step on blocks, they're going to disappear, and it's teaching you the mechanic in a safe place. The gameplay itself is relatively straightforward, and I like how it introduces new concepts in a safe way. I think it's a great way to teach mechanics. We see that in Half-Life, where the hanging things from the ceiling are introduced to you in multiple stages to make sure you understand what they are without having to put a huge pop-up in your face saying, "Be careful, this is an enemy."
Valve continues to do this throughout the game. Take the barnacles, for example. These are monsters who draw you up with their tongue and chew you into tiny bits. But you're not told this, you're shown it. And then just around the corner, you get some explosive barrels and a whole host of barnacle tongues, and you think to yourself, I wonder if I can do this.
The game has a nice progression curve, and you don't feel like you're hitting a hard wall of difficulty. It introduces new mechanics such as the buttons for doors, moving hazards, and I don't know if it can be sustained, but we'll discuss that later. For the bad part, the pixel art looks not blurry, but not as sharp as it should. I think it might be because there's lighting or glow used. It feels a bit weird right now. I definitely think lighting can be used, but it should probably be sharp. Let us know if you agree with that in the comments below. The players itself blends a lot with the rest of the game. It should stand out more. You can use outline, colors, or small animations. An animation where the player appears, yeah, for example. But I think we should be able to spot the player much more easily. It would also make the game look better in trailers and screenshots. Gameplay-wise, there's not a lot to explain, but I was still confused at first regarding the movement. I was not sure why my character would not continue going up, or why it was going down when I was pressing diagonal. Maybe it's because I was stupid, which is definitely possible. I then realized it was like that because the diagonal movement is supposed to be some sort of jump. I was confused by that because of the grid-based movement. This is something you can check by having multiple playtesters. If you see them struggle like me, there might be something to work on. Explaining it in a nice way can be challenging, but you could try making one or more rooms where this concept alone is important and remove all other distractions, if I can say, to make sure it's understood by the player. A less subtle way to fix this would be to show a grid that the character can reach, like it's done in many grid-based games. This helps the player understand the rules. You can make it optional, of course. Now, let's discuss how to improve the game. Something I'm worried about with puzzle games like that is how they're going to reinvent themselves throughout the game. The restricted movement is a cool concept, but it can get stale quite fast, so you need to introduce new mechanics, difficulties, or twists to renew the experience. Of course, this is needed only if you want to take the game further. It's also fine to have a small game like that and move on to other things. You don't have to turn every game into a huge full commercial project, but you have a Steam game and you're selling the game, so... One thing I could see help with replayability a bit is a move counter. This could hint at a player they might not have the perfect solution for a room. It could push players to find the ideal solution, which could be quite tricky in bigger and more complex rooms. The Steam page is completely fine as is. Same feedback as the previous game, the GIFs are nice, but should be cropped more vertically to focus on the gameplay and give more space on the page. Apart from that, I think it's pretty great. It explains well what the game is going to be and how much content there is. The capsule on this one is very lacking in my opinion. The blurriness of the graphics is not a good first look. Personally, I think I love a somewhat dynamic composition where I can see the character in the game on the grid with a hint of an obstacle or hazard in the background. Even if you simply go with like the title and character, I would prefer seeing the pixel version we see in game. The game released in late April, so you can buy it now if you're interested, and there's a free demo, so give it a try. Giving feedback like that after release can seem stupid, but I think there are tons of things you can still fix after release, and also it can be useful for other people or for future games. Thank you for your submission, and on to the next and final game. The video was made possible by the support of you on Patreon. If you want to help me make more of these, you can support me there and get access to some cool stuff. Thanks! It's a mix between a turn-based roguelike and a twin-stick shooter. You move on a grid and time only passes when you move. The game looks really cool with that mix of 2D and 3D view, which reminds me of Ape Out. The graphics are nice and vibrant, and it's paired with great sound effects. The shooting and explosion sounds are particularly satisfying. The visuals are a great way to set the game apart instead of being simply 2D sprites, and I like that. There are different weapons with bullet patterns, and you have to switch quite often as you don't have a lot of ammos. I think it's great, and it pushes the player to constantly adapt and switch to different weapons for the right situation. The destruction of certain objects and use of explosives is pretty cool too. I think I'd like to see more of this, but we'll talk about that later. Now for the bad. I'm not a huge fan of the name. I get the idea and it rhymes, but I think it's too long and confusing. Keeping just 2 words in the title, like Lootin and Shootin, would probably be enough, and it would make it more memorable. The shooting was not always clear. The moment you shoot, bullets travel further than one grid, and it's a bit confusing at times. Maybe showing a ghost of where the bullet would be the next move tick would be a solution. I said earlier the presentation was nice, especially with this 2D, 3D effect, but I think the camera is too far from the ground. When you're playing, only a fraction of the screen is used. I think the effect could still be impactful with a camera closer to the ground. At the moment, we mostly see walls. I get that the effect is great because you have a lot of parallax on the walls, but it's worth trying with a closer camera, in my opinion. The weapon selection UI is not super clear. You're showing a small pop-up at the top, but I think you can also add a visual close to the player, or maybe outline the weapon that has been selected. When providing feedback to players, it's good to have different ways of doing it. Each player will react differently, and some will never look at the UI. You can also add a little VFX like particles or something to show that the interaction was made. On the Steam page, I can see there are different environments, and I'd love to see change the gameplay slightly, or at least add a bit of diversity in mechanics or enemies. I think it could be a huge improvement to have different themes and try to explore those. I know people usually don't like ice levels, but I could see it being a good fit. You could have objects sliding on ice that you could push or send on enemies, and maybe ice tiles that would break after you walk on them. I think it can renew the gameplay and be a great fit for the grid-based movement. I said earlier I really enjoyed the interactions with the objects, like the explosive barrels, and I think I want more of that. Having interactions allows the player to strategize more and change its playstyle. You can save your bullets by using the environment more and shoot only stronger or more dangerous enemies. Not only that, it also makes the gameplay super fun. It's incredibly satisfying to shoot a red explosive barrel and eliminate many enemies at once. You can find similar mechanics in many games. Relying on that more could be incredibly cool. The trailer is nice and showcases the game quite well. I feel like it should put a bigger emphasis on the turn-based aspect at the beginning. If you watch the trailer without paying full attention, it's very easy to miss, especially because the gameplay is quite fast, so it doesn't really look turn-based. A good opening could be a zoom-in footage where we see the enemy shoot and we stop just before getting hit. Text would say turn-based, and then we would continue. Other than that, it does a great job of explaining the gameplay and the different mechanics. The description is clear and details what to expect. I think it's missing a GIF or two to go with the bullet points. A GIF specifically made to showcase the turn-based gameplay would be incredibly useful. It could be the same clips as what I suggested for the trailer. The Steam capsule looks great, but is lacking in my opinion. First, the title is very big, so I reiterate what I said earlier, it doesn't seem like a great fit. The colors are nice and vibrant, but it makes it quite hard to read. You don't have a lot of contrast. I think you should have 3 things on your capsule: an enemy shooting, a big bullet heading towards the player, and the main character. It's lacking dynamism right now, so you could probably add perspective to create something that shows movement. I also feel like there's a missed opportunity here. You have really cool visuals with your 3D walls, and you could maybe find a way to show it in the capsule. Even if you don't, you should definitely make it more dynamic. The game is in early access, so you can get it if you're interested, and there's even a free demo for you to test it. I really recommend you give it a try, it's pretty fun. Thanks for sending me your game, and I wish you good luck. I had a lot of fun playing these games and try to review them. Let me know if you enjoyed it and if you want to see more of it, because I already have footage from more games, so I could make another video. Thanks for sending me your games, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!